Offset thought the rumors linking him to Chrisean Rock were finally over, but everything changed after Chrisean Rock's former partner, Ronnie Doe, was killed, and a homicide investigation began. Suddenly, Offset's name started showing up in online conversations again. Instead of staying silent, Offset decided to speak out. Here's how this story unfolded. Karen Mackay Can, better known online as Ronnie Doe, was just 24 years old when he was fatally shot outside a home in Severn, Maryland on the night of February 3rd. The residence is about 25 minutes from Baltimore. According to Anne Arundel County Police, officers arrived and found Ronnie lying on the ground with serious injuries. They gave him emergency medical care at the scene before he was rushed to the University of Maryland Baltimore-Washington Medical Center. Sadly, he later passed away. Authorities quickly confirmed they were investigating the case as a homicide, and that investigation is still ongoing. What made this case attract so much attention wasn't just the crime itself. Ronnie Doe was closely connected to Chrisean Rock's life. In the months before his death, he had publicly claimed that he, not Blueface, was the biological father of Chrisean Rock's son. Back in December, Ronnie confronted Chrisean about the child's paternity and pushed for a DNA test. That situation played out in public, involved police, and quickly became a major topic for people already following the Blueface and Chrisean Rock drama. After news of Ronnie's death spread, social media immediately filled with theories and speculation. Many people online started connecting his earlier paternity claims with the tragic shooting, even though no evidence has been presented publicly linking those events. Before his passing, Ronnie had repeatedly questioned whether Blueface was the father, and insisted that DNA testing would settle the dispute once and for all. Investigators also shared an important detail early in the case. Police said they believed the shooting was targeted rather than random. Detectives collected evidence from the scene and interviewed witnesses, but they have not publicly identified any suspects or announced a motive. Because officials described the attack as targeted, online speculation continued to grow, with many people trying to guess what might have happened despite the lack of confirmed information. At first, Chrisean Rock did not make any public statement about Ronnie's passing. Her silence became another talking point across social media, as people wondered whether she would respond. Then another major development grabbed everyone's attention. Just days after Ronnie's death, Chrisean shared DNA test results on her son's Instagram account. The results, reportedly dating back to 2023, stated that Blueface is the child's biological father, adding another unexpected chapter to an already widely discussed situation. On February 5th, Chrisean Rock used her son Christian Jesus Porter's Instagram account to post the results of a paternity test. The paperwork, which appeared to date back to 2023, stated that incarcerated rapper Blueface is the biological father of her son. While the results answered one long-running question, the timing of the post immediately raised even more questions online. The decision to release the DNA results through her son's Instagram account quickly sparked backlash across social media. Some users claimed the timing looked suspicious, while others questioned why the results had not been shared sooner. A number of people even alleged the documents were not genuine, although there has been no public confirmation supporting those claims. Others focused on the dates listed in the paperwork instead. People commenting on Ronnie Doe's Instagram page also reacted strongly. Many pointed to the paperwork, showing that buccal swab samples from both Chrisean Rock and Blueface were reportedly collected on May 4th, 2023. For many online, that detail only added more confusion, because the results appeared to have existed long before they were finally shared. As a result, the conversation spread far beyond Maryland and turned into a nationwide celebrity story. The sequence of events fueled even more online discussion. A man who had spent months publicly asking for a paternity test was killed in what police described as a targeted shooting. Just days later, DNA results that appeared capable of addressing the paternity dispute were shared publicly after reportedly existing. For nearly 2 years, there is no public evidence connecting these events, but the close timing led to widespread speculation across social media, with many people offering their own theories without verified facts. That growing attention also brought Offset's name back into the spotlight. Years earlier, he had already been linked to Chrisean Rock through separate allegations about an alleged affair, claims that became a major online topic before eventually fading. As Chrisean's name began trending again, those old rumors resurfaced too, and Offset once again found himself answering questions and seeing his name pulled into conversations he had tried to leave behind. That's the cycle this story keeps following. Every time Chrisean Rock becomes part of a major headline, people online revisit older controversies connected to her. Because of that, Offset's name often gets mentioned alongside hers, even when the situations are unrelated. To understand why people continue making that connection, it's necessary to look back at how those rumors first started and why their names became linked in the first place. To understand how a homicide investigation in Maryland became part of a nationwide conversation about Chrisean Rock, you have to go back to the public dispute that first put Ronnie Doe in the spotlight. It all started with an Instagram video. Months before his death, Ronnie publicly claimed that he, not Blueface, was the biological father of Chrisean Rock's son, setting off a controversy that spread quickly across social media. In October 2024, Ronnie Doe posted videos on Instagram repeating those claims. He said he believed he had evidence supporting his position and called on Chrisean Rock to complete a DNA test to settle the matter. Ronnie also alleged that he and Chrisean had been involved with each other in January 2023 while she was reportedly traveling between Los Angeles and Baltimore. Those claims attracted widespread attention, although they remained part of a public dispute rather than established fact. Ronnie presented the situation as a fight to learn the truth about a child he believed could be his. On Instagram, he wrote, "I deserve to have that proven to me through what? A DNA test. If Junior is not my son, the DNA test will prove that." He added, "Right or wrong? Right." His posts gained traction online, and before long, the disagreement moved beyond social media into a public confrontation. Weeks later, Ronnie encountered Chrisean Rock while she was shopping at a mall with her young son. According to reports, the interaction became heated enough that police were called to the scene. Witness videos showed Ronnie holding up his phone while referring to the child as Junior, saying, "We got Junior right here." Chrisean attempted to shield her son's face during the encounter as the tense exchange unfolded in public. When Chrisean questioned why Ronnie was following her, he denied that accusation and again claimed the child was his. At one point, she warned that she would contact law enforcement. Ronnie responded, "Call him. Nobody touched you. Call him." That confrontation quickly spread across social media and turned Ronnie Doe into a familiar name for anyone following the ongoing situation involving Chrisean Rock and Blueface. After Ronnie's death, many online discussions returned to those earlier incidents. The public paternity dispute had already been making headlines for months. Reports noted that Ronnie first made his claims in October 2024, followed by the mall confrontation in November, which resulted in police responding. Then, in December 2024, Ronnie again stated that he believed he was present when Chrisean Jesus was born, and claimed he had filed for a paternity test while accusing Chrisean of avoiding legal paperwork. Those statements remained part of the public disagreement and were not established as fact. Meanwhile, Blueface was also publicly involved in the situation, having previously expressed his own questions about the child's paternity long before the DNA results were eventually released. Before their relationship ended, Chrisean Rock revealed she was pregnant. At the time, Blueface publicly questioned whether he was the father, but a paternity test featured on the show later confirmed that he was the biological father. Even with that result, some doubts continued online, which is why Ronnie Doe's claims found people willing to keep the debate going. There was another detail that kept the conversation alive. Even after Ronnie's death and after Chrisean shared the paternity results, some people connected to Blueface were still questioning the situation. His manager, Whack100, spoke online and raised questions about whether Ronnie could have been the father, causing more discussion and keeping the speculation circulating even after many thought the issue had already been settled. Then came another moment that pushed the story even further into the spotlight. Chrisean's sister, Taseki, made comments during an appearance on the Jason Lee show in April that many viewers interpreted as suggesting there could be more to Ronnie's death. Her remarks were unclear, but they quickly spread online and caused some fans to question whether Chrisean had any connection to the investigation. Chrisean Rock responded to those conversations on another podcast just days later. She pushed back against the speculation and explained that her history with Ronnie went back years. She said the two had known each other since they were young and dated for about 5 years during their teenage years. Chrisean also made it clear that his death affected her, saying, "I lost somebody that I grew up with. Like, that's nothing to play with." Online reactions were intense. Some fans believed Taseki's comments created unfair speculation, with one commenter writing, "Trying to implicate your sister in a murder is definitely a choice." Another person added, "Watch Rock get investigated now, SMH." Those reactions showed how quickly rumors and assumptions can spread when a high-profile situation involves grief, relationships, and unanswered questions. By this point, the public conversation had several major pieces creating non-stop attention. Ronnie Doe had spent months publicly asking for a paternity test. DNA results were shared shortly after his death. Comments from Chrisean's sister sparked more debate, and social media users had already followed Chrisean Rock through years of controversy. That was the atmosphere surrounding the story. With so much speculation surrounding Chrisean's name, an old controversy involving Offset was pulled back into the conversation. Even though the situations were separate, people online once again connected his name to hers. Now, the focus shifts to why Offset continues being mentioned in a story that does not directly involve him. Go back to a Sunday night in December, long before Ronnie Doe's name became part of the conversation. At that time, Blueface suddenly sent social media into chaos by accusing Offset of having an inappropriate relationship with Chrisean Rock while Offset was still married to Cardi B. He didn't make a vague statement either. Blueface posted a series of claims and described what he said happened between them, turning the situation into an instant online controversy. The accusations spread quickly because Blueface gave specific details about the alleged situation, claiming it happened at Offset and Cardi B's Los Angeles home. The post created a storm across social media, with fans immediately debating whether the claims were true. The situation became one of the biggest celebrity arguments online that week. Offset responded almost immediately. He strongly denied the allegations and made his position clear, writing, "I ain't never talk or touch that lady. Real talk, man, you need some help." Instead of only making a general statement, Offset also responded directly under Blueface's post, attaching his denial to the exact accusation that started the controversy. He wanted people to see his response right where the claims were made. The timing made everything even more intense. The accusations appeared just days after Offset and Cardi B had unfollowed each other on Instagram, which had already caused fans to speculate about their relationship. So the public was watching multiple storylines collide at once: a serious accusation, a firm denial, and a famous marriage already facing public attention. That combination is what helped the controversy stay alive long after the original post disappeared. The internet quickly divided into different sides as Offset pushed back against Blueface's claims about Chrisean Rock. Some people accepted Offset's denial, while others questioned whether there was more behind the situation. Those who doubted Offset pointed to Blueface's detailed claims, arguing that specific information made the accusation harder to ignore. Other users believed someone was simply trying to create drama and that there was no proof behind the allegations. With both sides arguing online, the story continued gaining attention. Chrisean Rock also addressed the rumors in the months that followed. During different public appearances, she spoke about the situation, but did not provide the kind of direct answer many people were looking for. That caused even more online discussion, with some viewers believing her responses left room for questions. The pattern became familiar every time the topic returned: Blueface making accusations, Offset denying them, and Chrisean's responses creating even more conversation. That cycle kept the controversy connected to their names and helped explain why, years later, old rumors could suddenly return when Chrisean Rock's name became a major headline again. And then, almost 2 years later, the controversy came rushing back. With Ronnie Doe's homicide investigation still open and Chrisean Rock's name continuing to trend, Blueface brought up the old Offset rumor again during a podcast appearance. Suddenly, a story many people thought was finished was back in the spotlight. During the interview, Blueface repeated his claim that Chrisean had allegedly been involved with Offset while Offset was still married to Cardi B. When the host questioned whether the alleged situation happened while Offset and Cardi B were still together, Blueface said that it did. The timing immediately caught people's attention. Blueface did not bring up the accusation during a quiet moment. He mentioned it while Chrisean was already facing non-stop public discussion surrounding Ronnie Doe's death, with gossip pages and online commentators analyzing every detail of the situation. Bringing the Offset rumor back into the mix created another wave of attention around both names. The result was almost instant. Offset was pulled back into headlines over a situation he had already denied, while Chrisean found herself surrounded by another round of controversy unrelated to the homicide investigation. Two separate stories became connected again simply because both involved her name. This time, Chrisean responded differently. Instead of avoiding the topic, she directly pushed back against Blueface's claims. She called the accusation false and suggested that Blueface was bringing it up for attention rather than because there was any truth behind it. That change in response stood out to many people watching the situation. In previous years, Chrisean had often avoided giving a simple yes or no answer about the rumor, which led some fans to keep questioning what really happened. Whether the stronger denial means anything or was simply a different reaction in the moment remains unclear, but it gave people another reason to revisit old interviews and compare her past statements. Offset, meanwhile, has stayed consistent whenever the topic returns. His response has remained the same: deny the allegation, separate himself from the situation, and move forward. He has not turned the situation into a larger public battle, or spent years addressing it beyond his original response. But every time Chrisean Rock becomes part of a major headline, Offset's name seems to follow close behind. The reason is simple. Years ago, Blueface connected their names through a public accusation, and that association has continued to resurface whenever another controversy puts Chrisean back in the spotlight. That's the connection people keep making. Offset is not publicly linked to Ronnie Doe or the homicide investigation itself. The reason his name keeps returning is because Chrisean Rock connects several different public controversies: the Offset affair rumor, the paternity dispute, and the investigation into Ronnie's death. Since Offset's name became attached to the first controversy, it continues appearing whenever the other stories gain attention. When multiple headlines involving the same person happen at once, online discussions can quickly turn into a storm of speculation, with the paternity dispute, the homicide investigation, and the resurfaced Offset rumor all happening around the same period. Much of the online reaction became focused directly on Chrisean Rock. The first major wave came after the DNA results were posted. Many people did not just question the timing of the DNA reveal, they also questioned the paperwork itself. Some social media users pointed to details on the document, including information about the testing website, and wondered whether the results were complete or accurate. Those were online claims and questions, not proven facts, but they added another layer of debate around a situation that was already receiving massive attention. The confusion also grew because paternity testing had already been a complicated topic in this story. A test shown on television in 2023 appeared to confirm Blueface as the father. Later comments from Blueface about other testing created more public discussion and uncertainty among fans, keeping the conversation alive long after the original moment. The reaction sections under the DNA reveal became extremely heated. Some commenters criticized Chrisean, while others focused on Ronnie Doe and felt the timing of the announcement was unfair considering his death. One commenter wrote, "When truth comes to light and the world finds out you were the father, Chrisean will get her karma. May your soul rest in peace. You never deserved this pain she caused you. She knew the truth." That type of comment shows how strongly some people online felt about the situation. It was an opinion from a social media user, not a confirmed finding, but it reflected the anger and assumptions spreading across the internet. Many people were trying to piece together a story that still had major unanswered questions. Then, another detail added even more discussion. Months later, Chrisean spoke about having a dream involving Ronnie the night before he was killed. She described the dream as feeling very real and said she had only shared it privately with one of her brothers before mentioning it publicly. Once that story came out, viewers had different reactions. Some people saw the dream as a personal experience, connected to grief and loss. Others felt that sharing it publicly could lead to even more speculation, especially because the investigation was already receiving so much attention. There was no public evidence showing that the dream had any connection to the case. At the same time, the official investigation remained unresolved. Authorities had not publicly announced a suspect, motive, or arrest. While online conversations continued growing, the actual facts of the case remained limited to what investigators had officially released. The case remains under investigation, with authorities still working to determine the motive behind what they described as a targeted attack. Chrisean Rock has not publicly commented on Khan's passing, while officials continue searching for answers. That lack of public information created a space where online theories quickly started growing. When there are no official updates, people often try to fill in the missing pieces themselves. Because Chrisean had a complicated history with Ronnie, and because certain events happened shortly after his death, many online discussions began focusing heavily on her. Her sister Taseki's podcast appearance only added more attention to the situation. During an episode of Comments Only, Taseki made remarks that many viewers interpreted as suggesting there was more to Ronnie Doe's death, even after Chrisean responded and explained that she and Ronnie had known each other since their teenage years. The original comments had already spread across gossip pages and social media platforms. Many fans began analyzing the sisters' relationship and past disagreements, believing Taseki's comments were intentional rather than simply a careless statement. Others argued that people were reading too much into unclear remarks. Either way, the conversation grew larger, adding another layer to an already chaotic situation. Blueface's side also kept the paternity debate alive even after Chrisean shared DNA results. His manager, Whack100, publicly questioned whether Ronnie could have been the biological father, despite previous testing and statements identifying Blueface as the father. Those comments reopened arguments about which information people should trust. Instead of ending the debate, the DNA reveal led to even more questions online. People argued about the timing of the results, the testing process, and why the information was shared when it was. The original disputes transformed into a larger conversation about trust, timing, and competing versions of the story. Then, the old Offset rumor entered the picture again, creating an even bigger wave of attention. Suddenly, people were looking at several separate controversies connected through one. person. Following Chrisean Rock's timeline became difficult because every headline seemed to bring another past issue back into the spotlight. In roughly a year, Chrisean's name became connected to multiple major stories: Ronnie Doe's death investigation, public comments from her sister, renewed questions about the paternity dispute, and Blueface bringing up old accusations involving Offset. Each situation alone would have created major attention. Together, they created a non-stop cycle of headlines and online debate. Throughout all of this, Offset's involvement remained limited. He did not publicly connect himself to the homicide investigation, Ronnie Doe's death, or the paternity dispute. His name continued appearing because of the earlier controversy involving Chrisean, not because of any confirmed connection to the events surrounding Ronnie's passing. Offset's involvement in this entire situation starts and ends with one thing: his repeated denial of the affair accusation whenever Blueface brings it back into the spotlight. He has not been connected publicly to Ronnie Doe, the homicide investigation, or the paternity dispute, but because the rumor resurfaces during the same periods when Chrisean Rock is trending, his name gets pulled into the larger conversation as if every controversy is part of one giant story, even though his actual involvement is limited to a few public responses spread out over several years. That is where the situation stands now. There is an unresolved homicide investigation, a paternity dispute that appeared to have an answer through DNA testing, but continued being debated online, tension between sisters after public comments, and Offset repeatedly returning to the same response he has given since the original accusation. He denies that anything happened with Chrisean Rock, so what happens next for everyone involved? Months after the shooting that started this latest chapter, the case remains open. Authorities are treating the death as a homicide and investigating the circumstances surrounding the attack, which they have described as targeted rather than random. At this point, no suspects, arrests, or confirmed motives have been publicly announced. Investigators in Anne Arundel County continue working the case and have encouraged anyone with information to come forward. Until officials release more details, many questions remain unanswered. Since Ronnie's death, Chrisean Rock has focused much of her public attention on her son and on sharing her personal experience with the loss. After initially staying quiet, she later spoke about how much Ronnie's passing affected her. She has described their connection as something that went back years, explaining that they dated for about 5 years during their teenage years. Chrisean has continued talking about Ronnie in personal terms, sharing memories and reflecting on their past rather than only addressing the public conversation surrounding the case. At the same time, online opinions about the situation remain divided, with many people forming their own conclusions despite the lack of public evidence connecting her to the investigation. Her relationship with her sister Taseki also remains a major point of discussion. Taseki's comments were never fully resolved in the way some fans expected, and Chrisean's response showed that the situation created real tension between them. When discussing the situation, Chrisean said, "I don't know, it's kinda weird, you know? How somebody says I love you, but then insinuates something to throw you under the bus." That statement showed that the issue was not simply about one podcast appearance. It reflected a deeper conflict between two sisters trying to navigate family, loyalty, and public pressure while millions of people watched their every move. Blueface has continued creating new waves around this entire situation. Between his manager questioning the paternity results and Blueface bringing the old Offset rumor back during a podcast interview long after it first went viral, he has shown that this story is not disappearing quietly. Every time it looks like the conversation is finally slowing down, another interview, another social media post, or another statement pulls it right back into the spotlight. Through all of it, Offset has remained in the same position he was in from the beginning, separate from the homicide investigation, separate from the paternity dispute, but still connected to Chrisean Rock's name because of a controversy that had nothing to do with Ronnie Doe's death or the questions surrounding the case. Offset denied the accusation when it first appeared, and he has continued standing by that denial whenever the topic returns. Considering how often the claim gets mentioned whenever Chrisean's name starts trending, there is always a chance the rumor could resurface again and force another response from him. But the biggest unanswered issue in this entire situation has never really been about Offset. It is about the investigation that started this chain reaction. Ronnie Doe was a 24-year-old man who spent the final months of his life publicly fighting to establish what he believed was the truth about his child. Now, his death remains under investigation, and there is still no public conclusion from authorities. Everything surrounding the case, the affair allegations, podcast interviews, family tension, and paternity arguments, has become a wave of conversation around one major unanswered question: what actually happened to Ronnie Doe? Until investigators provide more information, the speculation will continue, and every person connected to Chrisean Rock's public life may continue getting pulled back into the headlines, whether they are directly involved or not. The confirmed details remain limited. Authorities have classified the case as a homicide and continue investigating, while no publicly announced suspect, arrest, or motive has been released. The online discussion has continued through reports about Chrisean Rock sharing Blueface's paternity results, accusations from some users questioning those results, and ongoing conversations about Ronnie Doe's death and the events leading up to it. Sources discussed in coverage of the story include reports about Chrisean Rock confirming Blueface as the father of her son, the release of paternity test results after Ronnie Doe's death, online reactions questioning the DNA documents, and reports about Ronnie Doe's fatal shooting. From Ronnie Doe's tragic death to the non-stop debates surrounding Chrisean Rock, Blueface, and Offset, this story has continued creating headlines from every angle. Ronnie's passing, the paternity dispute, the DNA questions, the family tension, and the resurfaced affair accusations all combined into one of the most talked about celebrity controversies online. Many people are still asking the same questions. What really happened to Ronnie Doe? Will investigators uncover the truth behind the shooting? And will the unanswered questions surrounding the paternity dispute ever fully disappear? One thing is clear, the internet has followed every twist, but online theories are not the same as confirmed facts. The official investigation remains ongoing, and until authorities release more information, many details surrounding Ronnie's death remain unknown. Meanwhile, Chrisean Rock continues dealing with the public attention while sharing her side of the story, honoring her past with Ronnie, and focusing on her son. Blueface continues making headlines through interviews and public comments, while Offset remains firm on his denial of the accusations connected to him. This entire situation shows how quickly separate controversies can become connected when social media turns every update into a bigger conversation. But the biggest unanswered question remains the same. What truly happened to Ronnie Doe? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Do you believe this story still has unanswered questions? Share your thoughts, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more updates, and share this with others who want to stay informed.